Hi, welcome to ToRAISE Questions Doula podcast. This is Melanie Headley. I'm here with Thérèse Hakoun. She's the executive director of To Labor, which is an international doula training and certifying program. Also the sponsor of this podcast.
Hi, Melanie. Hi, everyone. How are you doing, Melanie?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I been like everybody else, at least on the East, dealing with the intense heat and humidity that makes me crazy, but some wild storms.
And I hear you have had an amazing weekend.
Yeah, I was really, really moved, and I was just telling you about it. My daughter, my second daughter, number 4 child, Grace, got married this weekend to David, who is just a phenomenal son. Oh, I have felt like he's my son for a long time. But anyway, it was a beautiful, beautiful vegan, non-alcoholic wedding on a animal rescue sanctuary that David works at. And it was just phenomenal and so loving, and saw all of my children and all of their partners together. And it was just, monumental. And the people that they love were invited. It was real small, and just those that they really felt close to. So it was a beautiful experience. It's really awesome to see. So this is to all those who have little children listening. It's relentless when we're raising our little kids, and yet it's so precious. It's so important. It's just, it goes by. We hear that, but it is true. And then you raise them, and then you see the products of them, and what they create. And it's just, I was in awe. I think, Melanie, you asked me, did I cry? And I think I was in just such awe of what I was witnessing, not just from David and Grace, but from all of my children, and the love and the care that they gave to her and to everyone else and to their partners. It was a big love fest. It really was, and a lot of fun. So thanks for letting me say that out loud. It was really enjoyable. I think weddings can be incredibly tense and fraught with political family situations, and have to say, because of their choices, it wasn't. And it was really, it was remarkable. So anyway, and how are you?
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
And congratulations to Grace and David.
Yeah.
And I loved seeing the pictures. Thank you for sharing.
And Grace, for those, she does all our social media, and she does an excellent job of it. So
she does.
Yeah, so I'm really proud of her in that way too. So,
well, it was so nice to hear of all the little details that Grace created for the wedding, and they were just beautiful. But it makes me think of my own kids, watching my girls now, and my boys, to think about all these little things that they're into, and their personalities are coming together, and what are they going to do?
I know.
So it's nice.
Yeah, and David made all the tables that we ate at. They're just 100-year-old barn wood that he had and created, and now they're for sale.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and they made everything. And Chances, my oldest son, Grace's oldest brother,
who I love.
Yes,
I love Chances.
Performed the ceremony for them, and that was like he said it to me, and he said it to her. Grace, I cut your umbilical cord, and now I'm helping you get married. Isn't that just amazing? It was like, oh my God, that's when I started to cry.
Yeah, that's when I started to cry, when you told me.
So anyway, that was it. So it was wonderful. And you right now are without children, right?
Yes. It's
fun.
It's really fun.
It's so nice, isn't it, to have a break?
It is. And thank you to my parents who are giving us that break, and my very best friend, who is also a doula extraordinaire, who is going to be with 7 children.
I know, 4 of her own and 3 of yours. And then your mom is keeping the youngest one?
The oldest one.
The oldest one.
Yeah.
Oh, she's got the easy.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck, Tara.
Thank you, Tara.
So what are we doing today?
Well, we are going to answer a question. We really, really appreciate the questions that you guys write into us, and comments and your own stories. And we really do read them. And we wish we had more time to, we try to contact you at least, but respond to you at least, but really had more time to have everybody on.
Yeah, it would be so nice if instead of us, we could have each person call in and ask us a question, which sometimes we do. So if you never know, we might call you and say, hey, you want to do this with us and have a discussion. And I apologize if sometimes we don't get back to you right away. We get kind of swamped with questions, but just to put it out there, give them the email address again of where they can send questions.
And that is ToRAISEQuestions@gmail.com.
Right. And that's probably the best bet. Any questions or comments that you have. And we get suggestions from people, which I love, about topics they would like us to cover. And some of them we are like, yep, that's exactly what we want to do. And sometimes we feel like, though, we can't address certain ones until we have somebody that we feel is more versed in that topic, like prison doula work, for instance, as an example. And other ones we're like, wow, I never even thought of that one. So that's great. So we are open to everything, and forgive us if we don't get to them right away or back to you right away. We do the best that we can. So we have a question today that we're going to address.
We do. We have a listener from Israel that we're going to get to. But first, we have a tip.
Oh, right. Great. And you're going to give the tip.
Okay. My tip today is the Miles circuit. I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with the Miles circuit. And I'm sure you're also familiar with the fact that 40% of first-time moms go into labor with a baby that is not in the ideal position.
Which I don't think, honestly, Melanie, a lot of people understand that babies aren't always in the optimal position, and that there are things that they can do to be aware, which is a whole other topic, but aware of those, what the position of their baby is. I think most people don't know, and that's where a doula can be so helpful. And if their baby is in the less than optimal position, what they might be able to do to encourage that rotation of that baby, and how that can change that early part of their labor, let alone the end result.
Exactly. And so the Miles circuit is just it's a tool to use. It's really 3 different kind of positions that you can do. I like to add in the Rebozo technique into that circuit when really working with a mama in early labor who their contractions aren't really organizing themselves. They're coming and going, but with no real pattern. It's happening for a few days.
And this is a interjection again, I really feel like so much of that is position of baby. And I know that that's not always the case, but I always feel like err on the side of caution and assume that it's the position of the baby, whether it's posterior or asynclitic or some other variation of the anterior position, and you can do what you're going to suggest in order to encourage that baby the opportunity to make a move.
And what I like about it is that if baby is already in the ideal, the optimal position, this isn't going to hurt it.
Well, that's what, it's there. We'll say it this way. Theoretically, it could always make it could, because risk is part of things, the unknown. But it is so much better to err on that side, because it probably will not do any harm. It would do only positive if it's going to do anything.
And I think you also have to be a little gentle with your client, where you don't necessarily want to plant this seed of fear that baby is not aligned the right way, and this is definitely going to cause problems down the road. So it might kind of be nice to just incorporate this into your early labor practice.
Right, exactly. So that it's not specifically, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So not dwelling on, well, your baby's not in a good position, which I also have choice of words around that I think are really important. I've said it already 3 times. There's the optimal, and then there's the less than optimal. Mm-hmm. It's still okay, but it's not as optimal as the one we would prefer. So, yeah, trying not to, I hate when I hear malpositioned or a bad position of the baby, because I think those are powerful words. Those are strong words. So what you're saying is just incorporate this in every one of your clients, especially a woman, a prima gravida, who, but any woman whose baby, she's in early labor, say, here, besides doing life, you can try these kinds of things.
Yeah, that's great. And also, because you brought up doing life, which I am a huge fan of, I need to get it on my license plate. That is above all, that is what we're doing here. And also, encouraging women and their partners in that early labor to do exactly just that and not try to work that labor. And so there can be a fine line.
There is a fine line.
Trying, giving them instructions on doing something. I'm in the middle of with a client right now who's on day 3 of prodromal, and she's 40 weeks and 4 days. And so today is the first time I brought out the mile circuit that they're going to try and I said, this is all normal, but let's see if this makes a difference. Let's see if the next time these prodromal contractions come on, if they turn into anything else. They could, and they couldn't, and it's all normal. So I know you're getting kind of antsy with the doing life every day. Here, try this. So, and of course, it's in the morning after she had a good night's sleep and ate, a nice breakfast. And so never trying to do these things at night after a full, long day.
Yeah. So did you have something else with the mile circuit, though, that you wanted to do?
Yeah. SharonMuza.com, and that's SharonMuza.
Shout out to Sharon Muza.
Thank you. Has a great PDF that you can either print out or text your client or email your client, so they actually have pictures of what this looks like so that you can show them in your prenatal appointments with them, but then they have something tangible they can hold on to. So
that's great. And it's always good to have that source so that they do have something. But I just heard Melanie on the telephone a second ago talking to her client's partner about doing exactly these things, but what she didn't have to go into a long explanation. She was like, so remember what we talked about and what we tried because you've gone over some of these things prenatally with them as far as showing them a position and such.
Yes.
Yeah. So that can be helpful, and this handout can be as well.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thanks.
There's your tip. We'll be right back. Read this question from one of our listeners in Israel, which we thank you so much for getting in touch with us.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We know that people listen from all over the world, not just here in the United States or in North America. So thank you, and thanks for your lovely comments as well.
So we've taken an excerpt from the letter. This is what we're going to answer. Our listener writes, I would like to ask you what percentage of doulaing you would say is emotional and psychological support, and what percent is based on knowledge of the ins and outs of pregnancy and labor and implementation of physical supports. Not in exact numbers, but in general. I find that while personally I feel relatively confident in the emotional support and cheerleading aspects, I sometimes feel daunted by the emphasis placed on all of the informational aspects as well as the physical skills, i.e., rebozo, positions, acupressure, hydrotherapy, spinning babies, pain relief, etc., etc., etc. What if I don't know enough? What if I could have learned another position or procedure that could have been done more to help my woman? The learning curve sometimes feels kind of steep and adds a sense of insufficiency and insecurity, even when I feel my emotional support of a client is so deeply beneficial to her.
I think it's such a great conundrum question. I mean, it really, I I feel in listening to it again when you were reading it, I'm thinking the answer is this yes, no, well, maybe. It's one of the way I answer so many questions. And so I guess I would have to start by saying that something that I say at all the workshops that I teach, and specifically at the end, like, forget everything you learned this weekend. Forget all the facts, forget all the minutia that we talked about, and just go to a birth. Just be present for someone at that birth. That you being there with the emotional component that this listener is asking about is going to make this birth a better experience for them had you not been there. I mean, we can never underestimate the power of that presence. And that's why we in our workshops talk a lot about being just present. It is really a mindfulness that needs to be practiced when you're there, and which is another reason why I guess I feel so adamant about the use of cell phones and texting and messaging while you're at a birth, because it removes you from that immediacy of attention and being present in the experience with that person. So I guess my answer is the percentage, I think the greater part of the work is the emotional and physical presence of yourself being there. And so, to this listener and to those others who grapple with this, and especially, I think and she says this more in her, further into her questions, her summation, is that this can be kind of daunting, especially if you're brand new at doing it. Like, am I doing enough? I don't know enough. And this is a question a lot of first-time doulas will ask at a workshop, like, well, I don't really feel experienced enough to go to a birth. I don't really know these things yet. Could I shadow somebody? When will I be ready? And my answer is always the same of what I just said. Just do it. You do know how to comfort someone. So I think the greater part of our work really has to come back down to the emotional component. And for many, it's the spiritual connection that you're making with that client and helping them make with themselves and with their partner and their baby, because that's the long term of this. And I think that goes a long, long way. But then knowing all the other things like that she listed, the different positions, the different acupressure points, the different essential oils, the different options and choices that are available, well, that is something that we do need to know as a professional. That is also, if you are being hired to do this work, whether it be for pay or not for pay, but you are being hired to do this work, they are with the idea that you also have a knowledge of what can be beneficial. So it is important as a professional birth doula, it's to have skills to bring into this. So, if you're the mom going to a birth, if you're the friend going to the birth, if you're the sister going to the birth, that kind of person coming to the birth, then you're not a professional doula. So you will just give that emotional support and you will give comfort. But you're not responsible for knowing much more than that. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. In my own experience, starting out as a doula, I had already been teaching for a while. Mm-hmm. And then when I took my first, paying doula client,
right,
I was scared to death.
Uh-huh.
Even though I had been teaching, I had had my own babies, I felt like I knew birth, but I was really scared about all of these things that she just listed, how to really use them and when to use them in the right way in a labor. And what I fell back on is exactly what you're saying. The emotional aspect, the spiritual aspect, just the act of being there, mm-hmm. Really makes such a huge difference. And all of those other pieces you will build that set of tools in time.
Right. So I think if you were present at somebody's birth, not as a professional doula, not calling yourself a doula, because when a mom goes, or one of the other people I mentioned, they may be doing the act of dueling. And people will say, oh, well, she acted like my doula, or my mom was my doula there. I don't want to, get picayune here, but because this is a professional, this is a profession, and being a doula is professional, there is a difference. So as a professional birth doula, certified or trained, then you should have skills. You should know positions. You should know certain things of comfort, which can include acupressure, can include different comfort measures that you can learn about, that we talk about in workshops, that you can learn about through reading, through discussing, being parts of groups that are giving hints and tips to one another. That is what you bring. We bring a bag of tools with us, both literally and figuratively. You have to have ideas. Do you have to know everything? Like, one of the things that strikes me in her question is, what if there was a position I could have done? Well, what if I had chosen a different time to be born? I mean, we don't always we don't always know. I mean, and when you're starting out, especially, you are learning. You're trying to figure it out. This is where networking is really important, and if you're invested in this, you have to invest in this. It means, we've shared this before, and we try and do this at workshops, have a doula come and bring her birth bag. Like, what do you carry in your birth bag? And almost every one of them will say they bring something like The Birth Partner by Penny Simkin, the book.
The Labor Progress Handbook is a good one.
Exactly, by her as well. Some people we have our manual, diagrams and suggestions on positions. They'll just bring it as a reminder of different things. And some, they're totally honest. A lot of times they never even look at that information. They don't need it, but it's there in case that they do.
Exactly. And same goes with the tools in the birth bag.
Yes.
And, you come prepared for anything.
Right.
And then you leave maybe using a couple battery-powered candles and your hands.
And your hands. I always said, if there's, because people say, well, what should you bring? And I said, well, the list is endless. And if you did that, you'd be bringing a suitcase. You don't want that. But you can bring just what you said, Melanie, lots of different tools. And then mainly what you will use is your hands, your voice, and your person. So, knowing positions is really important. I mean, to the profession. I mean, they will look at you and go, okay, what can I do? I mean, you ask them, well, what do you want? And most of the time they don't know what position.
Well, and then there's also, and this can be provider and nurse specific, but a lot of times in my first few births, I would ask the nurse, yes, or ask the midwife, or ask the doctor, have you seen this before? Do you have experience in this? Do you think this would work?
Right.
Do you think we should try this?
Exactly. And, here's the best, is when labor is just happening. And there are no variables that you have to deal with. That it's just a matter of, let's go sit on the toilet. Let's lay down on your side. Let's get on the birth ball. Let's get on your hands and knees. Hey, why don't you help her squat? And you're just doing it because those things are helping not only physically but emotionally, because it's changing up it's giving distraction. And you can massage. Hey, we're all going to massage you right now, or I'm just going to rub your feet, or let's get you in the tub. I mean, that's really what you do. And that's labor at its best, where it doesn't matter what position you do. As long as labor is progressing, then you just continue to do that dance with them. But
that's where you gain confidence in trying all those things too.
Right. And you see how they are. And as long as labor is progressing, you just keep doing that. And she will like it because, people in true labor land need direction because they don't, their brain isn't thinking in that way. Sometimes they will say, well, I just feel like I need to be on my hands and knees. And say, okay, let's get on your hands and knees. Or I really just want to lay down for a bit. Okay, great, let's lay down. And, we don't lay down on the back. You lay down on their side so that's going to help them rest, but also help the baby not go into a less than optimal position, perhaps, or something. And they won't be comfortable laying on their back. But it's okay to have resting times if labor is happening. But what you do need to spend some time, we feel, if you're really going to do this work and really put yourself out there as the professional birth doula is, and this is what, when I'm teaching the workshop, we can go over, here's how you squat, here's how you get on hands and knees, here's what you do. But what I like to address right from the beginning is, what if times, if you run into a situation where you find, the baby is not descending, what positions work best to encourage the descent of the baby? What if the baby is posterior? It's been, actually assessed by a provider that says, yeah, baby's posterior. Or what if, because you are watching it and you see the pain in the back, you're assessing it yourself just by witnessing that it's posterior. What positions can you put the woman in to help the baby? If you hear there's a lip, what position would work for that? Those are things that I think your client is looking to you for. Do you have to know every single one? No. But over time, you start to realize a lot of them, a lot more. At workshops, I'm always showing things, and then I will say, hey, does anybody else have something else? And not all the time, but many times through all these years, people will say, well, here, I just heard about one, and now I can't explain it to you. And I think Gina Kirby actually showed it at a Rebozo workshop, and it's a hip swinging thing where you and it was new to me. I mean, and what was hysterical was how it was like dancing to me. I'm not good at that, so I thought, I'd probably really be bad at doing this with a client because I'm having a hard time doing it. But I'm always looking for that new thing. And this was to get the baby to rotate into a better position. Mm-hmm. Maybe it wasn't her. I can't remember now. I'll have to look it up, and I'll pass it on next time as a tip. Remind me, Melanie. So, I not to put pressure on the caller's question or anybody else, but part of the experience is developing your skills and developing your bag of tricks. I mean, if you don't, you don't, but your client needs to know then what your limitations are. And, we all will have births where it won't turn out exactly the way they had anticipated it or the way we hoped it would turn out. So we are going to say, well, maybe if I had done this, that would have changed the picture. Or later you'll hear about something that maybe you could have tried that you didn't know. You know what? That's life. Mm-hmm. We figure that out. We go, okay, well, I wish I had known that. I didn't know that honestly. But next time, if it arises, I now have another tool that I will use. And, I like you, Melanie, I had 6 kids. I had been to births. I had been part of birth for so long. But when I went to one of my first real doula client births, where it was just me as the doula, I remember thinking, oh my God, do I know what to do? And I still feel that way. Will I know what to do? What if I can't figure out what to do? And even listening to you on the phone, I'm thinking, would I know how to have that conversation? I think, but when you're in the middle of doing the work, those experiences come up, and your intuition tells you how to go. And so, Yeah, I guess my answer is that yes, the emotional part is so important and the most important. But yes, I think you need to have the skills without getting bent out of shape about it. Remember, we're not primary care providers. And the other really big point I want to make before I acknowledge you over there, Melanie, is I want our clients to claim responsibility prenatally, though, for their knowledge as well of things. Like I stress, every doula talks about, and we totally encourage it also at the workshop, spend time on spinningbabies.com. Really get to know those positions, which are excellent for those variations of position changes that you want to maybe, because we spend a lot of time as doulas discussing positions of the positions because of the position of the baby. And that's because we know in the medical model, if the baby isn't optimally positioned, a lot of times they don't do anything to encourage that rotation. And so it really is our job to know those things. But prenatally, I always say your clients need to be as informed about those positions too. They need to have taken a childbirth class. They need to go to spinning babies themselves. They can do belly mapping, belly mapping, which Gail Tully has the book for sale on the Spinning Babies website, where they can map the position. I mean, they need to own responsibility for this. So you are the consultant there, reminding them what they already know, but you don't have to be the Oz of it all, like the overwhelming, I am here, I will give you all the answers. I don't always have the answers, but we can share those things together. So we know it, but we're not the only ones in power here or in control. So, yeah.
Well, and that sets them up to be parents.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they need to feel that sense of doing it. And, we were sharing, Melanie and I, before we went on the air, reviewing some questions. And one mama wrote in a topic that we will discuss, so I won't go into her question, but she was giving some of her background and her sense of power that she had after her baby was born, and that feeling that she had done this, and her exclamation out in public of, I did this, and because she actively participated in the experience, and that has an impact on her parenting forever. And again, this isn't to diss anybody who doesn't have that experience. We know you can still be an awesome parent, but the whole point of this is that parenting aspect. So we are there to support, but we want to encourage them to have knowledge as well. So it's not just on our plate for everything. So
I wanted to go back real quick, and Therese talked about we'll have those clients that will have this kind of intuition of what feels good to them, what they want to do.
Right.
I feel like hands and knees is good. I feel like I can take a rest. And then you'll have those clients that are like, where's my doula? Where's my doula? What do I do? How do I breathe? What do I do? What do I say? What do I say? And so just, even if it's your first or your, 100th birth, having that kind of cachet of tools that you go to in that moment. So if it's a patterned breathing, if it's a soft breathing, if it's, I just used the hand on the chest, you need to calm down and take a nice deep breath and hold it, and then we're going to go back to pushing. But, having that kind of just this, like, maybe 5 things that you do in that situation. And then as you attend more births, you will add more into that cachet, into that toolbox. But because you're going to have those clients too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a client who...
I think you have more of them. I really do.
I had a client who was in the Army, and she asked me in our prenatal visits to be a drill sergeant, that is the kind of direction she was used to, and that was what she thought she needed in labor.
And did she?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And those of you who know me, I am not a drill sergeant. And I was literally standing up against the hallway, and she was walking in the hallway crying. And I was saying, stop crying. Keep walking.
God.
And she did. And she had an amazing birth. And I was, looking side to side, like, these people, they're going to think I'm the worst doula.
They're going to think you're a drill sergeant, right. Not a doula.
And I felt terrible. And every time I would say, okay, stop crying. You're okay. Keep walking. And her husband just looked at me once and gave me the thumbs up, and I just felt like I was going to cry.
Yeah,
like, I feel
so mean. Yeah, you sound terrible.
Yeah, terrible. But that's what she needed.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes even having that conversation prenatally, what do you think you're going to need?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question, regardless of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What, engaging them in their experience. And they may, the reason I asked, did she need it? Did it work? Because some people think that's what they want, think that's what they need prenatally. But when they're in the throes of it, they don't.
Yes.
But it's still, we want to know, because chances are good that will inform us. And but that's why we have to have all those other tools and tricks in place too. So I hope this helps answer the question, not only for our friend in Israel, but also to anybody else. Emotionally, that is the biggest thing. And I've shared this before, that there was a study done a long time ago in Ireland of the presence of, they would put a woman in a laboring woman's room who would just sit there and knit and not talk and not do anything but knit, wouldn't make contact with the laboring woman. And they did that controlled kind of study where in another room they didn't have that. And what they found was the woman who just sat and knitted, that her birth was, from her mind, a more manageable experience, and it was shorter in duration than what they considered was equal with the woman who didn't have that kind of care. So that says a lot.
Yeah. It
says a huge amount, that just knowing somebody was there and the calmness, how it can impact. And so never underestimate that. That's a given, because one last thing about this, I haven't encountered it very often, but I've heard it from some clients that weren't my clients, but that called and needed to talk, that they had some doulas who were incredibly skillful with their tools, but were not emotionally present for them in any way, and that they were so disappointed. So it's not one or the other. It's a balance, I think, mainly, that they really need, because you can be really skillful. And we know that in many professions. Like, I have a surgeon who is incredibly skillful, phenomenal. But as far as emotionally attached or, giving that kind, no. But I'm okay with it, because that's not what I'm there for. But in birth, you can't just be a good clinician. You have to have the emotional, and the emotional is so important, but they're looking to you as a professional doula for the clinical as well. And clinical, you guys know what I mean, not in the primary care provider sense. So I hope that helps. And thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Listening today to ToRAISE Questions Doula podcast. Just wanted to remind you that we've got workshops all over the country. And please check out the calendar on tolabor.com for the upcoming dates for fall. Yeah, we have our 2015 calendar is full starting right now through December, but just wanted to make you aware of a couple of them, which is we're having one in Boston area July 10th, and we're having one in Corpus Christi, Texas,
the 17th through the 19th of July, in Columbus, Ohio, in the very last weekend in July, and then one in Michigan in August, and one in Bangor, Maine. Great time to go to Maine, August 21st. Great area, be cool, be beautiful. So consider coming to Maine for a workshop. And Tulsa, Oklahoma in September, and the list goes on through September, October, November, December. We have so many workshops, and so check them out. And hey, take a trip. I mean, one of the nicest things is when people come to a workshop outside of their area and get to really immerse themselves for the 3 days and not have to go back into their daily life after a workshop. So there's something to be said about doing it, like going to Corpus Christi where the Gulf is, so you could go to the water, give a day before, a day after maybe, or just even on Saturday evening being able to go out to the water is just, a nice idea. So if you can do that, consider taking a trip. Take your partner with you, your kids, or leave them at home.
And then also we are working on dates for 2016. So if you are interested, if you like what you're hearing, if you want to have a refresher course brought to your community, if you haven't yet taken the workshop and you want to bring it to your community, please, please, please get in touch with us. You can contact Nicole, who's great, at twolaborworkshops@gmail.com, and she'll give you all the information. She'll take care of you.
Great.
Bring us to you.
And please remember, we have a Facebook page, Facebook Two Labor Doulas. Please make any comments that you want. Stay in touch with us that way or through the email. And we really have fallen off on Twitter, but you can always Twitter to us as well. Tweet. And see, I'm so bad. At least I didn't say what I used to say. Not tweet, something that was similar to that. Yeah, I've done that before. Didn't go over really well.
And then please subscribe to us on iTunes and rate us.
Yes.
Give us a... what's the word I'm looking for?
A good rating.
Give us a good rating, a good review. Well.
Yeah, that we say that often, but we really would like to encourage you to rate us only because, and review us, because that really does help with exposure. We've got great exposure going on, but we all know the more that listen, the more there are, and the more doulas there are, the more doulas are needed. So don't get caught in, the competition part of it. Just remember, there's 4 million births a year and very, very few doulas, and everyone deserves a doula. So thanks, everybody, and have a great week.